The guilty verdict of Derek Chauvin comes after almost a year of unrest, and that, combined with the effects of the pandemic, has taken a huge toll on the mental health of people across the country and, of course, right here in Wisconsin.
This morning, we're joined by Arnitta Holliman with the Milwaukee Office of Violence and Prevention. Arnitta is also a licensed professional counselor. And Arnitta, what happened to George Floyd and everything since has surely left a weight on the minds of all Americans. As this settles out this morning, where do you think the conversation turns?
Well, I don't think the conversation makes a drastic shift because it's the verdict has happened, but people are still feeling that in a very intense way. And so they're experiencing collective trauma, vicarious trauma from watching the video over and over again. And so I think the conversation should shift to shifting to how do we heal in these situations, especially after they are happening repeatedly, but also what is justice? What does justice look like? And, moving to or continuing to have those other conversations around police reform and dealing with qualified immunity. It's a lot that people are experiencing, but these conversations have to happen and they'll need to happen simultaneously.
Arnitta, certainly appreciate your time and expertise with us this morning. Watching the reaction to the verdict, I heard words like a feeling of relief, feelings of being speechless, and the emotion, of course, the heavy emotional toll that you talked about. How does that conversation start? Is it as important to have that conversation with your neighbor as much as it is to have the conversation with your elected leaders?
That's a great question, Susan. It's important to have the conversation with everyone, right? But also respecting the fact that for many people, and particularly for many Black folk, they may not want to have the conversation right away. So respecting people's space and time to process, but also at the same time, if you're having the conversation, yes, you want to have that with your elected officials. You want to have that with city leaders, with government leaders. And this isn't just a local issue. Obviously, it's an issue across the nation, but then there are local pieces to this. There are people that sort of feeling the hit from Joel Acevedo's death and many other things. And so talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, talk to your family members. I believe we heal best in community. And if you need to speak to a professional, do that as well.
We're talking with Arnitta Holliman. Arnitta, with respect, of course, to George Floyd and his family, he is one man and that was one incident. Just this morning here in Milwaukee, we're reporting on two 14-year-old girls who were shot in the city. You work with the Milwaukee Office of Violence and Prevention. How do we turn the activism that we saw in the wake of what happened with George Floyd into things that happen in our community that continue to address what's happening on our streets, what's claiming Black lives on an almost daily basis here?
There are a lot of layers to this, right? And so we definitely need to deal with the systemic issues that are the breeding ground and perpetuate some of the violence that we're seeing in the community. Absolutely, Black life matters, and we need to address the loss of Black life at any level. But there also need to be things available for youth and families in the community that give them an outlet and opportunity to be doing something else other than, what might be happening. There's so much that needs to be addressed when it comes to violence in the community. And we have to deal with the trauma again around that. And so unfortunately, when people are harmed, some of them harm other people. And so when we don't focus on healing, we get the after effects and we get the consequences of that. That's a heightened sense of, threat, even to ambiguous things. That's, not feeling safe, even in situations where you are safe. That's that hair trigger response to something that you think may be threatening to you. All of those things we have to address, and healing has to be at the center of that. Healing from trauma and creating healing-centered communities and neighborhoods and homes has to be at the center of addressing those issues.
Certainly a difficult, tough conversation. Arnitta Holliman with the Office of Violence Prevention for the city. Thanks so much for your time this morning.